So, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I decided to make tapping something my gimmick for the beginning of the videos. You've caught me in the living room. Outside of doing the day-to-day in the spare room, you'll catch me here doing most of my video editing. And speaking of video editing, I do all of it on my early 2015 MacBook Pro. It's been 5 years, and I thought, why not, as a bit of a Christmas present, I'm gonna go ahead and treat myself. Let's get into it. Hey up, and welcome to New Rising Media, your home of hands-on reviews and gloves-off opinions about tech and gaming. I'm Jason England, tech and gaming journalist, and I thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to check out this video. Cheers. So if you're watching this video, you've been caught in all of the hullabaloo and excitement about the M1 processor, Apple's very own silicon that has been proven to provide dramatically longer battery life and much more power to Apple specific applications at the moment, but it is expanding as more developers come on board. And one of the key ones that got me most excited is this, the MacBook Pro 13-inch. Now, 13-inch MacBook has been the go-to laptop for me. It's been the one that I've always picked because it has enough power that I need to get stuff done and ultimate portability so I can get things done wherever I am. And over the last 5 years, the early 2015 MacBook Pro, which I'm actually using to record this audio on at the moment, has done me well. But this thing has definitely reached the end of its life cycle and then some. The battery lasts for no longer than 30 minutes. The MagSafe charger itself I've got fixed with tape because there's been some exposed wires, and just in general it's starting to slow quite dramatically on like key processors. Don't get me wrong, I did shell out for like a decent one at the time. Intel Core i7 processor, 16 gig of RAM. I had to go small on the memory though to fit my budget, so 128 gigabyte SSD. Luckily I've got one of these, which has been an absolute lifesaver. More on this in a future video. But one of my primary workflows of this thing is using Final Cut Pro. And while it does the job very, very slowly. For example, the 23-minute PS5 review that I did, you can click on the link up here to watch that. The machine limped along and exported the video in full in about 2.5 hours. As somebody who is mightily impatient, I wanted something a bit quicker, and that is where this beast comes in. So how's about we get it unboxed, shall we? So normally you would see all of the different angles and a bit more of a premium production. Don't worry, I'm still up here by the way. But given that we're doing all this from the living room, I don't really have a desk in front of me to be able to clip cameras onto. So we've got this second angle down here that we can focus on doing just a specific unboxing, and then I'll come up to this one over here and talk to you on here. So let's start by getting that classic lovely little swoosh sound next to the microphone. Doesn't that just sound great? That's a good little swoosh sound. So the first thing you'll notice is the MacBook Pro itself. 13-inch MacBook Pro. In terms of the dimensions, it is exactly the same design as the MacBook Pros leading up to this one. Would I have liked to redesign? Sure, but I've also got accessories for this thing and I've got used to this shape and form factor, so I'm pretty happy with this. Next up, you've got your Designed by Apple in California paperwork, complete with your stickers in the same space gray as this thing. Next up, you've got all your guide to setting everything up and all of your energy safety guides. Following that, and a big sigh of relief for me, we've got our power adapter with the USB-C plug on the end there. The bit that is making me breathe a sigh of relief is this looks like it'll be compatible with the longer cable that I got with the MacBook Pro with the MagSafe charger. Let me check. Right, so here is that plug. Super mucky, as you can see, but still. And yes, it fits, right. So if you're coming from a MagSafe charger that came with like both the short cable and the long cable, this fits the cable fits, so you'll still be able to use it on your USB-C charger for your new MacBook Pro. Nice and long USB-C cable for plugging in and charging your MacBook Pro. Get that out of there. Got a decent length to it, that's what she said. And yeah, that is all you get. And it's time for the full presentation. Everybody likes this bit, so I'll shut up for it. And I'll bring the microphone nice and close for it. And that is the MacBook Pro. I'll show you the edges. You've got a 3.5mm headphone jack on the right side. On the bottom, you've just got the laptop hinge, complete with the fans there, ready to turn on if the M1 processor does get a bit intensive. The only other ports that you get are two USB-C. Now, from the perspective of somebody who is coming to this with a laptop that had all of the I/O that I could possibly need, USB on the side, two Thunderbolt 3, flip it around, and I also had a USB on this side as well, a HDMI, and an SD card reader. It seems a little bit annoying that there wasn't any more I/O being put into this machine compared to the previous one, but that's not a problem here, primarily because I'm lucky enough to be able to afford the extra ports. Hyperdrive 2-in-1, HDMI on the top, two USB-C, SD and micro SD card reader, and two USB-A ports, and it just takes over the two USB-C ports on here. So how's about we turn it on? It's a nice little touch that it turns on automatically, and I'm not going to bother you with any of this stuff, so let's just go ahead and get it set up. And there we go. I say we do a side-by-side comparison, shall we? So you'll have to forgive me here as I'm using this as the audio, so you can see GarageBand running over here as I'm doing my audio recording, but it's worth me giving you a bit of a split comparison. Obviously this all looks very used, very haggard. I do apologize about that. So as you can see, this is a 13-inch laptop, but it has a slightly smaller profile. I've brought these up to line. It's just shy of this bigger frame of this unibody MacBook Pro, and then as you can see, that's the size of the trackpad on this one, and then it gets way bigger on this one. Displays, so this one was quite a standard panel. Both have the same pixel density, but this one can reach 1000 nits of brightness, where this one was like far less, and that one is not HDR enabled either. Going on to the back profile, the key difference here is that this one lights up, whereas that one doesn't. And to be fair, that's not really bothered me massively. It just kind of, it's a nice to have. It makes you think, oh, it's a MacBook, that's pretty cool, but surely that's not going to be good for your battery life. I've always been a big fan of Apple's chiclet keyboard. It's always done the job that I needed it to, and this one has always felt especially good because it managed to like fit a good level of key travel in. Apple tried to update it with their kind of like their MacBook line when they introduced that gold one that had like a weird switch to it that just didn't work. Open up a note on here. So already I can already tell a bit of a difference. So two key differences are kind of coming out to me immediately with this keyboard. First of all, there's obviously this touch bar that comes across with all your different recommendations up at the top, very much like what you got with your iOS keyboard. And number two, the keys themselves, they feel just a tiniest bit shallower, and they're also quieter. Is it worse than what I get on this keyboard? No. If anything, it feels like, from initial impressions, it feels a little bit more comfortable to the type. I mean, taking out of it the classic MacBook Edge issue that comes with a Pro. That's why the Air is always a bit more comfortable to type on, because it's got the sloped side of it, whereas this, it's flat all around it. And I do like the more consistent design of the MacBook Pro, but it just makes this edge a little bit sharper, and when you're typing, or if you're typing with your wrist that way, it can cut into the edges of your wrist a little bit, but typing on it like a normal laptop, like a normal person, not a weirdo like me. And this has that same key travel, but it's also a thinner profile as well. So one of the key bits that I definitely notice here, only by a factor of a couple of millimeters, this MacBook Pro, smaller, thinner, and as we're anticipating, more powerful. And that is going to do it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give this a good old whirl for a month, give you a 1 month review of my time with the M1 MacBook Pro. So I've gone ahead and spec'd this one out a little bit. It's got the 16 gigabytes of RAM and the 1 terabyte SSD. So what are you thinking at the moment? Are you interested in the new MacBook Pro? Are you going to wait for the newer lines with what they say is going to have an M1X processor? Or are you PC all the way and you think all of this is just a waste of money? Go ahead and let me know in the comments. And as always, likes if you enjoyed the video, subs if you loved it, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.